Hi friends, welcome back to Faith and Arrow Homestead. My name is Jaylee and today we're going to be talking about beef gelatin and we are going to be making gelatin gummy bears. Now I've been listening to the podcast Are You Menstrual? And anytime I start a new podcast I go all the way back to the beginning and I start from the beginning. And so I've been listening to them talk about how they make these gelatin gummy bears that they eat every morning when they first wake up, and they give them to their kids for snacks, and they're just it's a very healthy alternative to a sweet, but more than that, it's a vessel for them to get the beef gelatin in their diet because it has a lot of health benefits. So they have a blog, the Are You Menstrual podcast has a blog, hormonehealingrd.com. So I'm pulling this right out of the blog post. I'll link this down in the description. It says gelatin is best known for its improvement in digestion, decreases in joint inflammation, support of good sleep, increases in insulin sensitivity, healing of the gut lining, and improved digestive capacity. And in parentheses it says how well we break down our food. I had said in the previous video that I uploaded that I've been working on my digestive health because your digestion is tied to so many other things in your body. There's also a lot of information in that blog post about how gelatin can impact your hormones and help your hormones. I'm not going to get into that in this video. I just kind of wanted to give you a little bit of information on why I've been including gelatin in my diet, but we are going to be making gelatin gummy bears today. I've made these several times now. Every time I've made them, I've made a different flavor, and they are so much fun, and I love having them on hand. I think this is probably going to become a regular in my kitchen rotation. I'm going to make sure that I always have these on hand in the same way that I always have sourdough bread on hand, just because they are so good for you. You're supposed to, metabolically, you're supposed to eat within 30 minutes of waking up, and that's not usually feasible for me because the very first thing I do when I wake up is read my Bible, and my breakfast takes a while to put together. I cook a few different things. So it's usually an hour and a half, sometimes 2 hours before I'm eating. So I've started popping a couple of these in my mouth as soon as I wake up, and drinking a glass of water, and then I'll get to breakfast when I get to it. And that has been working really well for me. I've also started going to the gym, and I will eat a couple before I go to the gym, and I'll eat a couple when I get back from the gym. And it's just, this gelatin really does so much for you, and I've really liked having these sprinkled into my diet. So when you look this up online, the recipe, you're going to see them vary across the board. I've seen the juice to gelatin ratio vary. I've tried a few different combinations at this point, and what I've settled on is 1.5 cups of juice to 1/4 a cup of the gelatin. That's working really well for me. So when I put this up on the blog, that's the ratio I'm going to go with. Today we're going to make blueberry gummies, and so here I have some blueberries that I vacuum sealed and froze in August of 2022. I've been needing to do something with these, so I'm definitely not going to be using all of them in this recipe, so I'll make like some blueberry muffins or something with the rest of them. But I've done apple, I've done strawberry, and now I'm doing blueberry. So that's where I'm at with trying the flavors. The strawberry so far has been my favorite. The apple was okay, but man, I really loved the strawberry a lot. So you want, overall, you want 1.5 cups, but we're going to put this on the stove, and so I'm going to do 2 cups. I'm going to put that right into my little saucepan. I need to be wearing an apron. I'm trying to get as much of the liquid out of here as I can. Now, I'm showing you how to do this with whole fruit, but you don't have to. When I made the very first batch of these, I just used home canned apple juice that I had made, and there was no actual fruit in it at all. And a lot of the recipes that you see online will tell you to just use like fruit juice, pineapple juice, whatever juice that you can get from the grocery store, and that's fine. It's true, you can. But I'm really trying to, A, use up things that I have in the freezer, and B, make these as healthy as possible. I really want to get a lot of really good nutrition in these. So I used whole strawberries last time, and I'm using whole blueberries this time. Now, something tells me that these are not going to need to cook down for too long, because coming out of the freezer, they're already super mushy. And the whole point, like when I did the strawberries, I put them, I had to add water to the strawberries because there was no liquid in there. They were totally frozen and no juice like there was in these blueberries. And so I had to add, I think I added like a fourth a cup of water, just a little bit. And I didn't have to do that for these. So the strawberries I really had to cook down to get them mushy. And then we're going to put these in the blender and puree them. It's not going to take a very long time for me to cook these down. So I'm going to get them over on the stove. I'm not going to take the camera. There's not really a whole lot to show you. I'm going to put them on medium heat. I'm going to let them warm up and cook for maybe 5 minutes, evaporate off some of the water, and then we will come back. Okay, I just let it bubble for a few minutes, 3-4 minutes on the stove, and these blueberries are already so mushy, so they really didn't need to be cooked down too much. And I let it sit and cool for probably 15 minutes. And now I'm going to go ahead and add the honey. Now, you could do regular sugar, you could do maple syrup, you could do honey, you could do whatever sweetener you like to use in your kitchen. I'm doing honey because I want the nutritional benefits, and I've also waited until this had cooled down quite a bit to add the honey because I think, what is it, 100, is it 160? I don't remember, whatever temperature it is, that honey, you start to destroy the health benefits of honey if you put it in something that's too hot. So I let this sit for a while. Now, 2 tablespoons is what I'll tell you should use, but I don't ever measure it. The thing I'm learning about these gummy bears, and I've made them a few times now, they're very forgiving. The gelatin really works. Even if you have, like, I've done more liquid, I've done less liquid, and I've ended up with gummies both times. So I don't ever measure the honey. Now, keep in mind, when you're using a sweetener, when you're adding your sweetener, the whole purpose of it is not so much to get the gummy texture. The gelatin does all the heavy lifting with that. You're sweetening your gummies. With the apple juice, I hardly added any sweetener, and I'm going to be honest with you, it made a difference. They were still good, but they weren't the same. And then with the strawberry gummies, I went heavy on the sweetener, and they were so good. So I figure I justify it with the honey because there is nutrients in the honey, and so I do go a little heavier with the honey to get that sweet gummy. Because fruit does have natural sugars, it's true, but I'm here to tell you, they don't help your gummies taste sweet. I guess it's because I'm used to gummies, like from the store gummies that are so sicky sweet, that when I was eating the apple ones, I was like, these don't taste, there's like no sugar in these. they didn't taste sweet at all. And once I've got the honey all mixed in, I'm going to pour this into my little blender cup. I'm gonna do this over the sink. And then I still need this, so I'm just going to set this back over. Now this is going to still be pretty warm, so I'm actually just going to let this sit and cool off a little bit more before I try to blend it. All right, you guys, this doesn't take long, at least it didn't with the strawberries. I just have to pulse it a time or two. All right, and now it's going to go back into my little saucepan here, but I want to measure it because we need 1.5 cups. And like I said before, it doesn't have to be like exact, but I like to try and keep it somewhat exact. There's just a little bit left. I'll probably put it in my muffins, to be honest with you. Now I'm going to throw this back on the stove for just a minute and just let it come back up to temperature and get nice and hot again. It's literally only going to take like 2 minutes. While that's coming up to temperature, let's talk about my molds. So I got these off of Amazon. I have 4 molds, and they are dinosaurs. I don't know if you can see that. They're dinosaur shapes. I thought the dinosaurs were cute, especially because I've been having Tom eat these gummies because we've been working on his digestion too. And I thought that they were so cute. However, I did not realize until I got them that they're tiny. I don't know if you can like really tell, like there's my finger, tiny, 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 tiny. And I like, I guess, bigger gummies. I didn't realize I had a gummy size preference until I had these baby gummies. And then I was like, oh yeah, I like a bigger gummy, evidently. So I'm going to link these down in the description. I don't know that I would necessarily suggest, I don't know. I guess it just depends. It's not a huge deal. Having like a small gummy size, it's not the end of the world. It's totally fine. I wish they were a little bigger. I don't know. Is that something that people care about? I guess I'm not crazy about it, but it's not the end of the world. And the dinosaur shapes are cute, so I don't know. I'll link them. Use your own discretion there. All right, this got nice and bubbly again. So now here's the thing, because so far this has been really easy, right? These gummies are so easy to make, especially because so far all the steps that I have given you are if you're using actual fruit to make them. If you're just using fruit juice, like pineapple juice from the store, you literally just have to throw the juice into the pan and get it up to temperature, and then you end up at this step that we're at right now. So very, very easy. This part is a little bit of a pain in the butt. I have my 1/4 cup of gelatin. I use Great Lakes culinary beef gelatin, and I'll have this linked. I did get this off of Amazon. It's odorless, flavorless, colorless, all of those things, and it's great for you. And I've got a 1/4 cup here for a 1.5 cups of liquid. Here's the part that's a pain in the butt. You have to very gradually add it, like just a sprinkle at a time, and then whisk it in. And it's just a pain in the butt because it takes a second. Like, I'm talking, you literally just have to sprinkle a little bit at a time and whisk really continuously. And when you have a 1/4 cup, it takes a second. That's all. It's not the end of the world, but little time consuming, pain in the butt. The reason that you have to do it like that is because if you pour the whole thing in there, it's just not gonna work. You're gonna end up with a blob, and you're not going to have a consistency that you can then put in the molds, which is the next step. So I'm just going to, it takes probably about 5 minutes to like really well incorporate this. And so I'm gonna go ahead and do that now. Do you know what I just realized? I was jabbering on to you about how I wait until this mixture cooled down a little bit to add the honey because I didn't want to destroy the nutritional properties of the honey just for me to turn around and put it right back on the stove again. So really I don't think that would even work because you need to add the gelatin while the mixture is warm, and then you can't wait for it to cool because you'll end up having one big gummy in your pan. So I don't think there really is a way to, I guess you could probably add it last, right after you have finished adding in your gelatin, and that would probably be the best shot you have, but it's still going to be really hot. So I guess that was really dumb. And there's not really a way to guarantee you're going to have all the nutritional benefits of the honey. Interesting. I was like watching the steam come off of this as I was mixing it in, and I was like, wait a second. Oh, guys, I try. I'm not always the brightest crayon in the crayon box. All right, so this is ready to go. You can't let it sit too long. You really have to move right along to the next step because this will start turning. It'll start, I don't want to say hardening, gelling up, I guess. So I use a cutting board here to lay out. I don't have one that's, I wonder if I could, no, it'll hang off the end. I don't have one that's big enough to hold all 4 and fit in the refrigerator. And then the gummy molds came with a few of these little droppers. And so you just put it in there and fill up your dropper like that. And then you just put it right into the molds. Ooh, these are such a pretty color. I thought the strawberry ones were a pretty color too, that red. But this blue purple color is so pretty. So this also takes a little bit of time. I find it less annoying than whisking in the gelatin because obviously with the whisking you're doing the whisking motion, so that kind of annoys me a little bit. This doesn't bother me. Usually I have a podcast going or a YouTube video that I'm listening to, and yeah, it probably takes me 5-7 minutes to fill these. It goes pretty quick, but yeah, it's a little time consuming, but to me it's so worth it. And I eat probably 10 of these little gummies a day, so it does last. Now, you may be wondering why I don't have any already made to show you. And that's because I learned something that I can now pass along to you guys. And that is these gummies need to be kept in the refrigerator. And I did not know that. It didn't dawn on me that perhaps they weren't shelf stable. And so I had made a batch and they were sitting out on the counter. I had made the first two batches, the apple and the strawberry, and they were mixed together in a container. And they were probably 4 or 5 days old because I made them back to back. I made one the first day and the other the next day. So like 4 and 5 days old. And I woke up in the morning and guys, I didn't even, like my eyes were barely open. And I came out of the bedroom. This was last Sunday. And I just stuck a couple in my mouth. And I thought that I tasted mold, but I literally was not even awake. So I didn't really think anything of it. And it was church Sunday. And I was volunteering this past Sunday with the kid in the kids ministry. And so it was later in the day, I was getting ready to go to church. And I opened the container to have a couple more. And the whole top of the container was full of mold, like green mold. And I was like, I sure did taste mold. And I joked with Tom, it probably worked out. I gave myself a little shot of penicillin right before I worked with all the kids. Last time I worked in kids ministry, I ended up with a cold. Not this time. I pre-medicated myself before I went. Yeah, ate a good dose of mold. Yeah, so these need to be kept in the refrigerator. I mean, I guess technically they stayed good for like 4 days. But yeah, just keep them in the refrigerator. That I don't know of any other way to keep them good. Maybe in a container with an oxygen absorber, maybe, but don't risk it. And if you've got kids, they're not going to last anyway. It doesn't matter. But for me and Tom, they last a few days between batches. So I'm going to start keeping them. And because I had to throw the last ones out. So I didn't even get to finish those. So for this batch, I will be keeping them in the refrigerator. So it is pretty typical that by the time I get to the last mold here, this is getting really gummy-ish. It's difficult to get it in the dropper. And because these gummy molds are so small, it doesn't spread out in the mold as easily. So these last gummies are not going to be as defined. Some of these dinosaurs probably aren't going to have heads or feet because it doesn't spread out as easily, and it's a lot harder to get in the dropper. So it is kind of time sensitive, but at the same time, this is one of those projects where it's like, are your kids not going to eat them because they're not perfect? They're going to eat them. And I feel the same way. Like I don't care if it like perfectly fits in the mold, or if it's kind of funky looking. A gummy's a gummy. It's going to taste the same. So I'm not a perfectionist with it. And I know the first time I did it, I wanted to be. I was like, oh man, I really want these to like look really good. I get a little impatient at the end and just kind of splooge it out into the spot instead of trying to like perfectly fill it. So don't be too hard on yourself. And then also I overfill each spot because these are so small. And it's easy to do with this because by the time you're putting it into your mold, it is already, like it holds its shape pretty well. So once you fill the mold, you can put 1 or 2 more drops on top of the filled spot and mound it up a little bit. Does that make sense? And make it like a bigger gummy. I mound it on top of each spot. And it helps me use more of it because I won't use all of this in these 3 molds. I'll show you what I do with the excess, but it does help me to get as much of it into the gummy molds as I can. All right, my molds are full. They are definitely not perfect, as you can see. Like I said, I don't really try to be. And now I keep these in the refrigerator. You can also put them in the freezer, but they set up so fast that I don't find the freezer to be very necessary. I put them in the fridge and they're ready to go. Honestly, the first tray that I filled is probably already ready to go. They set up really fast. Now for the rest of this, I just get a Tupperware container. Any container's fine. These come apart for easy cleaning, which is very nice. And I just put the rest of it into a Tupperware container like this. And do you see, look at, I don't know if I'll be able to show you. This is already so, like it is moving a little, but hardly. And so this is already setting up. So I'm going to put this in here as well. and we'll come back to that and I'll show it to you. We're going to give those a few minutes, but really quick before I go so those can set up, I just want to mention a couple of things. So I have a lot of blueberries here. I have more blueberries here than I'm going to need for my blueberry muffins. What I'm going to do, and I did this with the strawberries, I'm going to go ahead and make another blueberry juice thing like you just saw me do and freeze it. So I have a whole bunch. This is just cooked strawberries with honey. That's all this is. There's no gelatin in this. It's just the fruit mixture. And I had more than I needed because I wanted to get rid of that bag of strawberries. So I cooked up more and I froze it. And these are those ball freezer containers. I'll link them down below. I really like these. I'm going to do that with the rest of the blueberries. And this is a great preservation idea for excess fruit that you may have any time of the year. You can go ahead and cook it into the fruit sauce like I showed you and freeze it. And in the future, when I want to make more gummies, I just need to defrost this. I'll already have it and I just need to warm it up on the stove, get it back up to temperature, add my gelatin, and I can go straight from there. So I just thought that this was a really great idea to have some already made, and it's a great preservation idea as well. Let's try these. So they firm up really fast. Do you see what I mean about how so like here's an example of one that's just like flush, and then here is an example of one where I kind of like mound it up a little bit just to make it a little bit bigger. And these molds, they pop right out, no problems. It's gonna be difficult to see the shapes because this is such a dark color. The strawberry ones were really easy to see the shape. Let me see if I can try to show you. You can kind of see, I guess. Let's try. These are the blueberry ones. Those are good. I will say, I really think the strawberry are my favorite. I really liked the strawberry ones a lot. Yeah, so like I said, I usually eat about 10 of these a day, but they're small. And that helps me get a little bit of that gelatin powder every day. I definitely like that I'm eating them now that I'm going to the gym because I do think it's actually really helping me with recovery from the gym. So all I do is pop these into a container, and I'm going to keep them in the fridge this time, like I told you. The only other thing to discuss is this baby. And what I do with this, and honestly, you don't have to have molds. You definitely don't have to have molds. If you have kids, like, they're fun, I guess, but I just did it for fun. You could totally spread this out on like a piece of parchment, and then I just take a knife and I just cut it. They cut really easily, and I just cut them into squares, little squares, just like this. I just go all along here. So here's an example of one of the little squares. It's just a little gummy square. That's all it is. And they're still, they still feel the same. They taste the same. Everything's the same about them. They're just in squares instead of cutie little shapes. And you can absolutely do it that way. It'd be probably, I know it'd be a whole heck of a lot quicker because you won't have to squeegee the mixture into little molds. You can just pour it onto a piece of parchment or into a big casserole dish, anything like that. Into a bunch of Tupperware containers. So yeah, do whatever suits you, but I definitely recommend giving these a try and adding these into your rotation. Swap out the fruit snacks that you're giving your kids for these. They're so much healthier. I mean, so if we're going to talk about this as a fruit snack replacement, which wasn't why I started doing it. I already wasn't really eating fruit snacks since I cut out a lot of processed foods. I was just trying to get the gelatin in my diet. But if you want to do this as a fruit snack alternative for your kids, it actually one batch makes quite a lot. And you could absolutely like just give them little Ziploc baggies of them, or pack like in their lunchbox. You could pack a little Tupperware container with like 10, 15 gummies, something like that. And then if you think about it, the ingredients, there's 3. There's the fruit and the juice of the fruit, the honey, and the gelatin. That's it. There are no food dyes. There are no artificial sweeteners. There's nothing. There's just those 3 ingredients. And you could add other flavorings. I did see one recipe online. It was a strawberry, and they added an artificial strawberry flavor to it. And you could, I actually have strawberry flavoring in the cabinet, so I definitely could have done that to get an even more intense strawberry flavor, because these are very subtle. These are not like in your face blueberry flavored. And so you could add some flavor to get them more of an intense gummy. But especially if you have kids that haven't really been eating gummies, they're not going to know the difference. And even if they do know the difference, they're still going to like them because they are very good. So, but I recommend getting the beef gelatin in your diet. One more thing, when I originally planned this video, I was going to do gummies and marshmallows, because you can also use the beef gelatin to make marshmallows. And I've had so many people tell me it's so easy, because I have another video where I did a hot cocoa mix, and I said in that video that I wanted to learn how to make marshmallows, and everybody was like, it's so easy. I actually don't think it's that easy. I tried, and I ended up with, mind you, this has been in the fridge now for a few days. I did this a few days ago. This is what I ended up with when I made the marshmallows. And they tasted very good. I used maple syrup as the sweetener, and so they're like a mapley marshmallow, but I can't with the consistency, I can't do it. It's like a marshmallow flavored Jell-O is what the consistency of. It's not like fluffy and light and puffy like a marshmallow. It's Jell-O. And I can't get behind it. So maybe I just picked a bad recipe, and I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do with this, because I don't want to waste it, but I don't want to eat it. So I was going to bring you a marshmallow recipe along with the gummy bears, and I can't. I'm not there yet. I haven't figured it out. So why don't you guys do me a favor and drop your favorite tried and true marshmallow recipes down in the comments for me, because this one was a bust. This did not turn. Maybe other people would like it. To me, I can't with the texture. So yeah, guys, that's all I've got for you. I just wanted to show you how to make these really easy gummy bears and how to get that gelatin, why you should get the gelatin in your diet. So I hope that you'll give them a try. They're really easy. Remember, you don't have to have the molds. You can absolutely just make the little gummy squares, and that's just fine. No issue with that whatsoever. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. I can't wait to see you in my next video. Have faith, my friends, and keep moving forward.